Hello and welcome to Pregnant Pause. Playable. Only through knowledge and meditation can you know the true way of the cards, or also known as your favorite show about our favorite games, here to talk about Star Wars. I'm D-House here with my great, just handsome podcast co-host, Jim, Jay, Mike. How we feeling tonight, guys?
You had way too much fun with that intro. This man must be stopped.
This is the one thing I do on this show. Let me do it.
Yeah, because you definitely don't provide us with like actual good takes.
And that'll do it for this week's episode of just kidding. How are we doing?
It's a good thing you don't have the power to kick Jay from the studio here.
Yeah, Jay has been kicked from the group text message though. As has Mike, has Jim.
I think we all have.
It's a rite of passage, yeah.
Okay, now shut up and tell me how you're doing.
We're doing good, man. We got some Star Wars games to talk about this week, so always fun to talk about Star Wars.
I have been looking forward to this episode since we started Unplayable. This one episode.
So for 3 weeks.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
The internet doesn't need to know that, Mike.
What episode is this? Do we know?
This is episode 8.
We've done so many episodes I don't even remember. That's how
we're consistent.
2 months of consistent podcasting.
That's insane. That never happened with Double Blanks. We'd release one.
There's a lot that didn't happen with Double Blinks, Jay. Let's be honest. Well, today is the ultimate Star Wars episode. We are all a bunch of Star Wars nerds. Well, I don't know about Jim. Jim doesn't watch any content at all. He just stares at the wall for his entertainment. But the rest of us love Star Wars. And we are very excited to cover Star Wars.
Jim, have you never watched Star Wars?
I've watched all of the Star Wars episodes, all 9 of them.
That's a great start.
I've seen the spin-off movies.
Okay. Also great.
Yep, Rogue One's my favorite.
I'm relieved to hear this.
Yes, I've played many Star Wars games. Having said that, I would not classify myself as a Star Wars nerd. I enjoy them. I think I watched one of them with David when it released, so ha. But I'm not a Star Wars nerd, and if I get canceled for that, I understand.
You don't have to be like super knowledgeable about Star Wars to be a fan of Star Wars.
No.
Okay. Yeah. I'll take that.
That's a hot take.
I like laser swords.
It's true. It's
okay.
True.
The laser swords are cool.
Laser swords are absolutely cool.
Well,
I mean, that's what makes the whole thing. Like, it would not be as popular if they didn't have laser swords.
That's true. Well, speaking of Star Wars, I actually started watching Bad Batch. That's the one Star Wars content I hadn't consumed yet, and I started watching that.
It's a good show.
Honestly, to prepare for this episode, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back and rewatch this, and I'm actually really, I'm enjoying it. It's been good. My son's at that age where he's like, Dad, this is too scary, but I like this, but I don't know how to react, kind of a thing. So, so it's, I don't know, we'll see. But Bad Batch is interesting. It's I like the way they're doing it. So,
all right, let's crack straight into it.
Let's go. Why? Who wants to talk about? Why are we talking about Star Wars games all of a sudden? Who wants to take this away?
Well, we are talking about Star Wars games because good old Fantasy Flight Games announced
our good buddies, our good best friends.
Our good pals, Fantasy Flight Games are releasing in 2024 are releasing a Star Wars collectible card game with no gimmicks.
No gimmicks.
No gimmicks.
Does that mean no dice? Is that what they're trying to say there?
I don't know. No dice, no asymmetrical thing going on, I guess. That was the previous Star Wars game, which I thought was really fun. But yeah, so new Star Wars game from FFG coming out in 2024. And I think it's safe to say that we're all pretty excited about a new Star Wars game.
TCG too.
Yep.
Not an LCG.
Not an LCG. Trading card game. Collectability is back on the table for Fantasy Flight games.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, even though they've released a collectible game before. This is the first time they're doing collectible.
Was it collectible?
Well,
Do we?
Destiny was collectible-ish for sure. I mean, it was collectible, right? It had booster packs. It was a random, you got random cards, but they did not lean into the collectability of a collectible.
Like,
I would actually go as far as to say it was not a collectible card game. It was a randomized card game.
Yeah.
Ooh, an RCG.
Yeah.
That's a new brand.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Because there really was not much collectible about it. if
No,
we're all
what
being
was the
honest.
most expensive card? Like Ancient Lightsaber, probably.
Yeah, like $50 maybe.
Yeah,
$50 to $60.
Yeah.
And you only need
but
two.
no foils, no
foils,
like,
no
yeah.
cool Starfield dice. Like they could have done so many cool things
Yeah.
with it.
The spot glasses got a little bit of attention at times, but speaking of spot glasses,
Yeah.
I brought a couple.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I should have
Let's
busted
go.
out my my collection of stuff. Are those top 32?
I
no,
don't.
one of those is
remember.
regional. One of those is from a regional.
I think so. Ahsoka says first on it,
Okay.
so I got it for being first place in something. So
Store champ,
probably
probably.
World Championships. I don't remember. And then we got Kaden Jarrah's for
Volcano Jarrus.
2018. I think this was just a prize wall thing, if I remember
Nice.
correctly. But,
Yeah, I remember that.
But spot glasses got a little bit of attention.
There was one Destiny card that was like super collectible, super hyped because I think there were only literally 5 of them, and it was a spot gloss Sabine that was only given out at Star Wars Celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like just given away randomly to people in the audience.
That's right.
And back in the day, it sold. It was like selling on eBay for like $1,000.
Yeah, and Ashley Eckstein was like there, and she like signed one of them.
I think I don't remember if it was her or if it was. I think her name is Sarika Sarkar, maybe the actress that played Sabine. I think she signed one of them, which would have been sick. I would have loved to pick
Oh
that
yeah,
up,
yeah. Sorry, wrong character.
but-
Are
Sorry,
you not a fan?
no.
yeah,
I know.
all right.
Not a fan.
Sorry, that was a Jim moment.
Join me.
Yep.
Join me.
But that was the extent of collectability in Destiny. So I mean, I think we all hope that collectability is a bigger thing in this upcoming game. Which I don't know if we've seen.
They did
comments.
talk about.
They commented on that. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's
they
good.
they
foils, alternate treatments.
alternate treatments. Yeah, which is like, gosh, yes, please, like,
Right? Yeah. Give me all the alternate treatments.
because
please.
then you get into the chase of like, will it be possible to make a whole deck of like foil cards because you did the work
Right.
to like try to get 6, whatever, like however many cards it is to like build a deck, like to like actually have a full foil deck. There's that game within a game kind of a thing. So.
Yeah, 100%. It makes booster packs more worth opening if you've already opened a bunch of booster packs, right?
Yeah.
So lets them sell more stuff, which means that they're going to be able to support the game better. A lot of people don't like the collectability because it's, in theory more expensive, but I think ultimately leads to a better overall game experience for the whole community, especially if you can get, collectors, whales into buying a bunch of packs and buying a bunch of boxes. It just goes directly into supporting the game, over a longer period of time.
Yep.
And speaking of that, I don't know if we want to get into this. I think, why not? Let's get into this. So we, on our YouTube channel, polled our community. I was just curious to see, what people thought. I said we're pretty excited about the newly announced Star Wars Unlimited. How about you? We got 40-60 split of hyped and not hyped. I think, we can all talk about reasons why this might be the case. We had some interesting conversations between the 4 of us of like whether or not to even post this. Like, we're definitely not trying to be negative. We're definitely not trying to like bring out the sort of animosity that sometimes comes out towards Fantasy Flight
The
games for
internet
reasons that we'll get into, and Star Wars, right?
Both hands.
Like Star Wars fans hate nothing more than Star Wars.
FFG fans hate nothing more than FFG.
Exactly. So like they're bound to sort of get this reaction. Like, we know almost nothing about the game as well, so not a lot to go off of, but just interesting to see sort of where we're starting at in terms of hype and be able to track this over a longer period of time and see like where we're at when it is released. So I want to hear what you guys think. Like, what are your, like, why are you guys hyped about this? What what are you maybe like worried about even? Like if like even though I know that you guys are all very excited about this.
I also posted this poll on my Twitter before we posted it on YouTube, and it was 56-44 at the opposite direction, which
Pretty
is kind
close.
of interesting. But there's only
interesting.
like 52 votes on it compared to 164 on our YouTube. So take that with a grain of salt. But I still think it's like split down the middle, kind of a little bit. Yeah, so one thing that I would so we didn't read through the article. I mean, there's a lot to read.
What do you mean we?
I did quote one.
You
No,
didn't
no.
read, Jay.
I mean on the podcast.
Okay.
For the
I do remember like a day
listeners.
after the article was posted, you're like, wait, did you guys actually read the article? Yes, I read the article. You're
read
just
it
like,
too.
ooh, Star Wars, cool.
Yeah, so you have a quote here that's a pretty good summary of some of the stuff they mentioned. And the co-designer, Jim Cartwright, readily acknowledged that he and his team would be fighting an uphill battle to earn the hearts of potential players, especially those burned by past experiences with Fantasy Flight's card game franchises. So they are acknowledging the fact that they have kind of screwed over players previously with mini games. I mean, any competitive LCG plus Destiny that they ever made. Netrunner, Game of Thrones 2.0, Legends of the 5 Rings, L5R 2.0. What else was there? There's the Warhammer one that Eric Lang did. I mean, there's just a ton of LCGs that they made, and they all were canned pretty fast. So, yeah, I mean, speaking just basically on their track record, it's like, why would we want to invest in this? But in the last 2 to 3 years, Fantasy Flight's kind of personnel has changed, ownership of the company has changed. I think that we can't really bank what is going to happen in the future based on things that happened when lots of other people were involved. And they're coming out straight up telling us, this company has had issues before, but we're looking to invest in changing that. So that's what I would say in terms of like having some form of hope for what this game could do.
Yeah, I'll chime in. So we've got the designers listed. In addition to this, they talked about Daniel Schaefer, Jeremy Zwern, and Tyler Parrott. All three of which have designed games that I absolutely love. So on a design standpoint, I have zero concerns about the design. Like when it comes to like creative games, I think FFG, that's where I feel like everyone in the community knows this. Like FFG creates straight up like awesome games. Like I never hear criticism of FFG
except for L5R.
Yeah,
debatably, which I've learned that a lot of people love L5R, even though I don't.
Yeah, it was probably a little too complex. And even so, Tyler Parrott developed L5R, but he inherited the design from another game developer who created that. And I think he did a great job with what he inherited too. So I just feel like so Jeremy Zwern inherited Star Wars Destiny, Daniel Schaefer inherited Keyforge, Tyler Parrott inherited L5R. They all did, I feel like a pretty good job of like taking what they were handed and developing it. And they've been listed as like the developers of this game for 3 years. Like the fact that they've been working on this for 3 years, like that is mind-boggling to me. That's how long they've been like essentially working on this. And I had a suspicion. I was like, man, FFG's been real quiet on the Star Wars front. They came out with like this deck building game at one point. I think Caleb Grace worked on that from the co-op world, and like it was just like, wow, what are they doing? And then of course they announced this. It's like, oh, okay. So what gives me confidence is like, okay, I know the design is going to be good because quite frankly, I have not disliked an FFG game that they've released. The things I've been burned by is the logistics side of like, do they know how to release things on time and have enough product for everybody and to communicate with players? Communication with Destiny was like an Elmo GIF on Twitter.
The infamous Elmo.
GIF, but yes.
Okay, let's not get started, Mike. I'm already frustrated because I said the word Elmo GIF, okay?
I'm also frustrated because you said Elmo GIF.
We're all angry. We get because that was literally a response from the official FFG Twitter account to a legitimate question about Star Wars Destiny was an Elmo GIF. Like, that's how bad the communication has been in the past. And that's why when this was announced, there's so many people being like, no way, I'm not trusting this. Like, I posted something in the Star Wars Destiny Facebook page about the game's press release. And like, so many of the comments were like, are we really trusting this company to do anything? And like, so many people were like, no. And honestly,
I get it though, right?
Like, I do get it. Tyler Parrott actually posted something, like multiple things publicly. He's like, I also get it. As a designer of the game, he said, I get it if you don't trust us, which to me is like, thank you for like just an honest, like, yeah, we've sucked. And at the same time, he said there have been more resources dedicated from the studio than ever before in this one thing. And I actually believe him because FFG hasn't done anything. They're not releasing anything. Like, so I actually do believe the fact that like they are dedicating an overwhelming amount of resources to make this a great game. So my issue has never been with the design. It's always been on the logistics side. If they can do the logistics side, well, I think this has some legs.
Yeah, it is also, it is good to see that they're acknowledging their sort of past mistakes and not sweeping them under the rug like, FFG of a couple of years ago might have done. I always have had an issue with like certain things about their marketing and things like that, where it's like, okay, these things don't make any sense. Why are you doing it this way? But
just
again,
name it, Mike. What do you hate the most?
Okay. Okay, I could go off, but even
name one thing you don't like.
Why did they announce this on May 8th for no reason? When you have May the 4th, like a week ahead of it, and you have Gen Con in like a couple months. Maybe they wanted to get it out ahead of Gen Con for other reasons, but
yeah, but it's like right there at May the 4th. Like,
yeah, it's so close. It's so close. So I just feel like I hope that their marketing is on point, because I think that that's like half the battle with a game like this. I hope their OP is on point, because that's the other half of the battle with a game like this. Again, similar to David, I've never had an issue with FFG game design. Some games I might not like, but I think they're all very high quality, very well done, very creative. I think this will be exactly that. If you're looking for a deep, exciting, fun card game, this probably will be that. If you're looking for a game that is able to grow a really big community and support it for a long period of time will tell. And I hope it will.
From a production standpoint, I would say that they've been pretty consistent with LCGs at this point. Like, the only thing that they weren't consistent with was Destiny. And that was a whole debacle because of the dice. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't compare logistics-wise the production of this game versus Destiny.
They used to be pretty bad with their LCGs, though, too. Like, I remember a period in time, where, like, even L5R, like, I think something got delayed and products got messed up where they had to release 6 packs in 6 weeks rather than once per month for 6 months.
Nice.
And they just slammed it all together, similar to what they did with Destiny, when they released a new set and then 2 months later released another brand new set and then didn't release another new set for, like, 8 months after that or whatever. So, there were issues, but without dice, definitely could be much easier for them to produce this game. I have to imagine that won't be too big of an issue. If they, there's always a possibility of misestimating demand, which we're even seeing Lorcana do, right? Like, there's a ton of like rumors that Lorcana is going to be allocated beyond belief and that people are not going to get the product that they want. I tend to think that's probably true. Like, the hype for that game is just like absolutely insane. Mm-hmm. And I think that even though they printed more in order to meet that demand, that just takes time. So I think hopefully eventually they'll figure that out. But it's also, I think the timing of this is also interesting because of Lorcana coming out, because they're pulling from not the same IP, but from the same sort of broader Disney, I guess, IP. I think some people have pointed to the fact that like maybe there's never going to be Star Wars in Lorcana. I don't know if you can really draw that conclusion, but I think it's unlikely to see Star Wars in Lorcana for the first like little while. But it's also like interesting in that I think that Lorcana has a better opportunity to bring in brand new TCG players than Star Wars does. I think the reason for that is simply because there have been so many Star Wars trading card games in the past that we have to draw from as like reference. And, maybe there were some new TCG players that were created off of Star Wars Destiny and stuff like that. But I think, the majority of people who currently play card games are, likely already Star Wars fans or know about Star Wars or would be interested in playing a Star Wars game. And people who are interested in Star Wars and not interested in trading card games, I think are maybe a little bit less likely to get into this than somebody who's like really into Disney and wants to get into like a Disney card game.
Yeah.
Just because of the relationship between you and that genre. Like I said, like Star Wars fans love nothing more than to hate Star Wars. So
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that Star Wars in general is at an all-time low in terms of people's like eagerness for more Star Wars. One, because we're flush with Star Wars content right now. And then two, because not everybody likes all of the Star Wars content that we're getting flushed with. So I think that could be an interesting kind of like dynamic of how well this game does or not.
It could hit at a good time. Go for it, David.
Playing devil's advocate, though, Jay, I think Andor itself as a show, I feel like was the first Star Wars content that I didn't hear constant like, oh, but they messed up this thing, blah, 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 nerd rage, like Andor was like, oh, this is unifying. This is good. And then Mandalorian season was a little bit controversial. Some people didn't like it, but I feel like it was overall win. They just released a brand new like Disney Plus Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures that's more targeted toward kids. My son loves it. He's obsessed with it. Already has his eyes on a Lego set from Young Jedi Adventures that came out like a week ago. We didn't even mention this, but Funko just came out with a Star Wars Rivals game that is like a little bit of minis and like cards and stuff. Like he wanted and we got it. I was like, oh, this is like a fun game. So I don't know. I feel like maybe a year ago I would have said that about Star Wars, but now I'm like, actually, I think it's turning a corner toward.
I think it's turning around.
Yeah, it's turning around. Yeah.
I think like Jedi Survivor just came out. Ahsoka's about to come out.
Point. Yeah.
Like I feel like it's sort of like ramping up again, where I think I totally agree. If like last like 4 years, it's been very sort of like kind of everybody's kind of down on Star Wars, but I don't know. At least for me, like I'm sort of feeling that hype build again towards Star Wars in general. Like I'm right now in anticipation of Ahsoka rewatching Star Wars Rebels with my wife, and it totally still holds up. Fantastic show. And I'm just like very excited about Star Wars stuff in general at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if other people are as well. But I think a year from now it could be different. People might be more excited because we're closer to whatever the next thing is that's coming out, or people could be over sort of this current wave of things, and it's so hard to tell. Star Wars fans are so fickle.
Yeah. What? Go ahead, Jay.
What's our next slide?
This is it.
That's it. Okay.
So
these are all the slides.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do think I do want to shout out. So Zach and Steven over at Team Covenant did a whole like 2-hour Star Wars thing. And they like talked about all the previous Star Wars games. There have been a lot of Star Wars card games. I think it's worth a listen. And Steven said something I want to highlight, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts. But he basically said, like, we all know there's a lot of like FFG haters. Like we've literally been FFG haters on this podcast. Like we all know that there's Star Wars haters out there. He said, but when this game drops, he's like, I think his opinion was that first set, it doesn't matter. Like people are going to see that on the shelf and they're going to be like, yeah, I'll get a starter set or I'll get a couple booster
100%.
packs or whatever.
Totally.
Do you guys agree with that take?
Or there'll be whales trying to buy as much as they can so that they can sell it on the secondary market. So like they're going to be buying it 100%.
I definitely agree with that. I do think the people who are like against FFG because of the games that they've put so many resources into, whether it's time or money, you still are like curious enough where you're going to want to check it out. I'd
Yeah.
be very shocked if they're like, nope, hands off. Like, I'm not even going to go into my like local game store because I just want to avoid it at all costs. Like, that's just not going to happen.
They're going to try it at least, right?
Yes. And so, yeah, they may not go, full diving board, like cannonball in, but they're for sure going to get the starter set, like you said, at least check it out, see if they like it before. So I think it might take a little bit slower time to build up if it is this game that's going to, rock the gaming world. But I think it's still, I trust the game itself. It's just, how are they going to run it is the question everyone's asking. So
if there's anything I've learned being in the online spaces is that the most vocal and like trolly that you see online is like the super minority of people. So it's like, yeah, they're super vocal online saying all these toxic things or whatever, but it's like there's way more people that are not that way and are like super into whatever it may be. In this case, Star Wars or CCGs or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think a ton of people are going to try this game. I think it's going to hook a lot of those people, given Fantasy Flight Games' track record of making really cool games. Yeah. So I'm pumped. I'm very excited. I can't wait to get into a Star Wars game. Again.
Right, like it's like the pressure's on the logistics side of FFG, of like the guys who would probably never listen to this podcast of like can they do it? Can the OP department do it? Because I think we're all cheering for them. It's just so maybe just real quick, each one of us give a like last word of like what's your level of excitement for Unlimited, final word, and then we'll talk about some Destiny. Mike?
I'll go first.
Oh, Jay.
I'll go
Jay,
first.
Go for it.
Because there are two things that I did want to kind of like quick touch on. One, they're bringing in all new art. It's not going to be art from Destiny. It's not going to be art from their board games or other card games. So like this right here is a board game called Rebellion. It's a Star Wars game. And it's got all the same artwork that like Destiny had or Star Wars Pandemic or whatever it is. Like, which I actually kind of like the artwork. It's just not like super flavorful. Mm-hmm. Whereas this new artwork that we have on the screen right now looks pretty sweet and it's very new and fresh. So I think that's important and cool thing. And then they also said, I think we did mention it, but I am looking forward to the fact that they are going to be doing foils. And I think they said alt art treatments or different forms of treatments for cards, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to assume since it's a TCG and it's got packs that it will hopefully have limited when it drops, which is one of the funnest ways to play card games.
Yeah, give us draft.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit about Destiny, I guess, and we can compare what Destiny's draft experience was to what we want to see in Unlimited. But I'm super stoked. I loved Destiny. I like a lot of FFG games, and Destiny was one of the most fun TCG or card games that I played, and I loved making content for it. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. Like, I love it. Even the bad, I'm here for it. You know what I mean? So just more Star Wars anything I'm cool with.
Jim?
Mine will be much shorter. I'm just excited to see what happens with it, but I'm not like chomping at the bit. I think, as I'm not like huge Star Wars person. Like I said, I like this company. I loved everything that I've tried from them, so it should be fun. But I'm not like going to be heartbroken if it doesn't take off, but I hope it does.
Mike?
I'm at like a 7 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10. Like, I'm very excited for the game, but I have some of the trepidations that other people have around the company that is producing it. And, I have my doubts about whether or not they're going to be able to support it in a way that is going to allow for it to really succeed. So I will definitely be playing it. I'll definitely be trying it out, but I don't know if I'm going to like whale into a bunch of booster boxes like I might if this was coming from a different company. So I think like I'm all in on the gameplay.
Mike.
No, I honestly, dude, like I might. Okay, once we see what they look like, that probably is true. That probably is a lie.
If there's one thing I know about you, Mike, whaling is the move. Okay.
I might. It depends on how cool the alt arts look. It depends on if I think that like they'll be able to support it, right? Like I don't know. I have a lot of my concerns are like, support related. They're marketing concerns. They're like, obviously fulfillment concerns. It seems like they're doubling down on the fact that like they're not going to have an issue with that, right? They've said that a bunch of times, basically saying we're not going to have any fulfillment issues. Okay, I believe you. Are you also not going to have any marketing issues or OP issues? I hope not.
Who's in control of the Twitter account?
Yeah, right. So I hope not. I hope it's great. I honestly like the fact that we haven't heard any other information about it this week yet since this announcement makes me a little bit like already a little worried, because it's like, okay, you're gonna announce it and then not say anything for months, and then like, okay, all of a sudden it comes back. It's like, what was the point of announcing it?
Yeah. So
I mean, Lorcana did a very similar thing, and then like eventually they started releasing spoilers and like kind of brought the hype back. So I get it. Maybe they need to release it so that distributors know about it. Maybe they need to like release the information for other reasons. But I feel like while they have a captive audience, they should be sort of trying to maintain that audience. So I think we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely excited. Definitely gonna be buying it. Definitely gonna be playing it. But I'm reserving my like hype meter, because this is definitely the kind of game where I could be a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
So, but I'm trying to hold back a little bit.
Yeah, this is one of the only games where like I can genuinely say like I don't need the first articles to be from the designers or the playtesters. I want to hear from the logistics like distribution department. Like I need to hear from the OP people. Like here's exactly what we're doing to make sure that we can release this game in the right places at the right time. It's like the unsung people of like any card game company of like, yeah, I just need to hear from them to like have the confidence that this will be great. As far as my excitement, like I would love to sit here and say I'm a 7 out of 10 like Mike. I'm so reserved and I can totally like play poker, but the whole reason I got back into gaming as an adult was I walked through a store and saw the Star Wars LCG on a shelf, and I just said, "Yep, I'm gonna play that," because it was Star Wars, and it's like
that's actually how I got back into gaming as an adult as well.
Well, there you go.
I don't know if we've ever talked about this before.
This is why we hosted Jedi Trials together. We were matchmaking.
I was getting really into Star Wars specifically, and I think I actually saw X-Wing first, and I was like, oh, these look really cool. It's Star Wars, ships on a table. But then I was like, no, I'm more of a card game guy. And then I was like, oh, they have a Star Wars card game. I've seen this, but didn't seem that appealing to me. And then I started watching Team Covenant videos that would break down like everything that was in one of the Star Wars LCG packs, and got absolutely hooked.
I did the exact same thing, Mike. I watched a Star Wars LCG video by Team Covenant, and I was like, yeah, this is good. So
sold.
So like FFG, just send your content over to Team Covenant apparently. And
I actually lived abroad in London for a little while because my wife was studying there for when she was in law school, and while she was studying, I spent my time going around to different local game stores in the UK playing the Star Wars LCG.
Let's
go. Playing in different tournaments and stuff like that. And it was a great time. The scene there was awesome.
Mike,
you probably played against the 3-man meta and never even knew it.
Maybe.
Mike, we hosted a Star Wars Destiny podcast for like a long time together, and we've never talked about the Star Wars LCG.
Nope.
What the heck?
Yeah, and then while I was there, Star Wars Destiny came out. So I was playing the Star Wars. Actually, I think this is actually how it went down. Star Wars Destiny was announced, and I was like, "Oh, Star Wars game upcoming! I'm really excited about Star Wars again." Oh, there's a Star Wars game that already exists. Let me go check that out. And so I bought the Star Wars LCG in anticipation of Star Wars Destiny coming out like way, way later.
Wow!
And then while I was in London, Star Wars Destiny came out. I participated in a pre-release at like whatever local game store was there, maybe a couple, and then brought the stuff back to the US, and they definitely looked at me funny when they saw the dice in my bag at the airport.
Oh yeah,
we've all been there
in a big brick.
Okay, so we've been hitting at it for a while. I think we just pivot right now to Star Wars Destiny because for those we do have some new listeners, some people who got interested in Lorcana, started watching some unplayable content. And they might not know this, but Jay, you hosted Double Blanks Gaming, the worst Star Wars Destiny content on the web.
Certified trash.
With you and Chris, and then Mike and I hosted the Jedi Trials Destiny stuff, the best content on the web. And that's the way that we originally connected. Jim got in on the game way later, but he still played droids like a filthy droids player.
And they were fun and good.
So we want to take a minute, like, and say, like, hey, let's celebrate like Star Wars Destiny and our history with Destiny. So Jay, I'm gonna throw it to you, man.
God.
When you think about Star Wars Destiny and your memories of that game, we've got a lot of people who tune into this show simply because of our Star Wars Destiny past. Give me your immediate reaction. What comes to your heart and mind?
Oh man, that's that takes me back. Like so much. When that game was out, so much of my life and like content creation was revolved around Destiny, and it was just so much fun. Me and Chris, we had like just some of the most fun in my life doing like Star Wars Destiny content, just doing stupid stuff like backseat Destiny, where I'd be playing on TTS and he'd be sitting behind me yelling at me, trying to coach me and telling me I'm an idiot and I'm stank and I'm trash and all kinds of. I mean, every time you rolled double blanks, we would just go, "My man," and everybody knew what that was. Everybody knew what that was. There's a lot to unpack there, but yeah, that would be like my immediate memories and fondness of the game.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, like, playing that game allowed me to meet a ton of awesome people. Like, I would not have met you guys. We wouldn't have been, like, we never would have started doing this if it wasn't for that game and us loving that game and playing that game and enjoying it enough to do content for that game. Like, we, even without having, content to do, things to talk about, like, we've kept in touch over the last, like, 5 years just because we, for some reason, enjoy each other's back and forth conversations through our text message thread that we've had for the longest time. So, like, it's definitely like that game definitely like has done the most for me in terms of like my, I guess, growth as a human, I guess is a weird way to put it, but like I sort of started getting into doing content for that game because I like that game. I obviously like met a ton of people, which is awesome. Learned a ton about gaming for one, learning a lot about game design, learning a lot about like, I don't know, like the business of tabletop games and everything like that. So I definitely owe a lot to that game. I think the gameplay itself was great. I'll have a lot of thoughts about it too after revisiting it that we could maybe get into a little bit later. But yeah, I want to hear your sort of reminiscing, David.
Yeah. So at the time Destiny came out, I was actually hosting an X-Wing podcast called Stay on Target. That was my first like introduction to content creation with a buddy of mine named Corey. And then Corey and I, Star Wars Destiny came out. We're like, oh yeah, because he was a Magic player and I was playing the LCG, and we're like, this is so much more of like what we're looking for. And so we started Jedi Trials, and then eventually he just life hit him, and it was just me, and that's where Mike and I were hanging out, and we're like, Mike, you want to do this thing? And I was kind of talking to these weirdos, Jay and Chris, and there was this thing called Friday Night Dice, and Chris was breaking light bulbs, and I was like, these guys seem like my kind of people. And Destiny just it exploded my world into like this community and these like groups of friendship that like I think honestly like kind of define how we approach this unplayable content of like we just want to play fun games with friends, and like we don't care like if we win worlds, great, but like who cares, like if we're having fun along the way and making some memories, that's what it's all about. So like I think about So many things. I think about I met Jay and Chris at a regional prime championship in Alabama, I think. Was it Birmingham?
Yeah, Birmingham.
Yeah. And we
Nice.
we even shared a hotel room, and Jay and Chris were like, I don't know, staying up to like 4 a.m., like just talking all crazy to each other, and I was trying to get some sleep before playing. And then this guy comes out with like Mace Windu and some trash.
No.
can't say it like that.
That regional. I played K2SO and I played.
Oh
that's
yeah,
right, that's
yeah,
right.
K2, yeah,
Ray
K2SO, Ray, K2SO and Ray together, and just wild times. I didn't do well that tournament. I don't even remember what I was playing, but I do remember at the end we ended up playing like a multiplayer, like, and we put it on video.
Oh,
We
yeah.
like pseudo live streamed it from our iPhones, whereas
Oh, I
you made
remember that.
Chris and Sugi from Knights of Ren, and we just like played for this like stupid like Burger King like style belt that I still have somewhere. And I played
we built the decks for each other for that game, and we just picked the worst characters and made the worst decks.
and I played four what was it, Rebel pilots, or like rookie
Rookie
pilots.
Pilot, the best
worst
art in Star Wars Destiny.
the best or worst art in Star Wars Destiny, and it literally couldn't do damage by itself. Like, it had all modifiers on its die, and that was like some of the hardest I've ever laughed playing a game. And I did end up winning that game because y'all underestimated the rookie pilots, and I just died. Like, that was like some of my best memories.
You won that game because I couldn't let Chris win, and Chris couldn't let me win. So by default, you were gonna have to win that game.
Didn't matter how bad those rookie pilots were.
Yeah. But yeah, just recording content, TTS video gameplay, and making content. We made some like Bendu power action tokens. I wish I had one in front of me. Some Porg shield tokens. My buddy Jason in Cincinnati like 3D printed some of this stuff. 2018 Star Wars Destiny World Championships is a memory I'll never forget. I mean, we've talked about it on this cast before, but goodness, just like Jay, I think your dad actually posted this on Facebook. It was an old Double Blanks interview you guys did with me. And I was literally 5-0 at the time, and you and Chris stood behind me, and I rolled out 4 dice, and I rolled 4 blanks, and I just looked back at you like, please move away. Like, you guys like cursing my table right now. Just little things like that, man. Like, and even like, again, it's like the community outside of the game. It's like I hardly remember a single game of Destiny I played. It was all the like friends I made along the way that
it was getting
Star
drinks
Wars
the night before at whatever that bar was, when I thought that the drinks would be Minnesota prices, but they turned out to be Los Angeles prices. And I was buying everybody drinks and probably had a I don't know, $160 bill at the end of the night.
Yeah, that's when we became the Star Wars Destiny World Champions.
Yes, that was. I mean, we've talked about this on the cast as well. That's one of my favorite gaming memories of all time.
Yep. I wore my medal again today for our audio listeners. I promise I won't do this every episode, but had to bring this out.
No, he can't promise that.
Listen. But I also won these really exclusive Star Wars Destiny power action tokens.
Nice.
Look at this bad boy. We got Tarkin and the runaway Boomas from the Gungans.
Oh, that's a card.
These are all like really classic stuff. I actually tried to sell these for making top 8 at World Championships, and no one would even buy them.
Nobody wanted it.
Like,
we did.
I mean, like, it was literally like, oh, so
that's great.
I've got lots of good memories, but
So Jim, when did you get into Star Wars Destiny? Did you get into Star Wars Destiny?
I did get into Star Wars Destiny. So for me, it was, I think, Way of the Force, which I think was the 5th set that came out.
Oh man.
Okay. So
back in my day.
Let me tell you. So I think I started right as you guys were kind of leaving the game a little bit. So I remember when I joined, they were about to do the rotation. So there's rotation every 3 sets was the plan for it. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just get stuff for I think it was Legacies,
Mhm.
Way of the Force, and then I'll just focus on that. So that was kind of my introduction to the game itself. But as far as like how I got involved with it, it was like one of Dave's and my friends who was like, just come play games with us and check it out. So I think Keyforge had just come out or like was about to come out as far as like the timing of that goes. And so was into Keyforge, but then I saw this game where they were rolling dice and having fun. I was like, that one looks more fun. So I think initially I invested way more into Star Wars to the point that I think the one like tournament I went to, I like dropped out of the Keyforge tournament just to make sure I could play Star Wars the next day.
Nice.
Yeah, he
all of a
was
sudden-
he was like 5-0 at Keyforge National Championships, and he dropped to
You're
play
like, nah.
Destiny.
I literally needed one more win to make this day 2, and I dropped. And I told David because I wanted to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, but the reality was I wanted to play Destiny the next day.
I
That's so
forgot
good.
about that. Oh man,
That's awesome.
It's like my favorite like
That's
gaming memory is like
it's like 5-0
Maybe
drop,
good.
guys. 5-0 drop at National Championships.
yeah, it's
a
true.
power
The
move.
second set of
All of your opponents hated you.
literally, well, no, yeah, everybody that I'd played already, it was like, oh
Yeah.
man, like okay, at least we lost to this guy. Dropped, peaced out.
Peace.
Oh man, that was funny. But yeah, it was like literally so I could play Destiny. So it's like the game
That's
just hooked
awesome.
me. I loved it. So yes, I did play like droids. I did play the whole support era, which I think like the true Destiny fans, the diehards from day one, would just shake their head at me. But I can be the Gen Z of Star Wars Destiny,
That's
coming
fine.
in with our cool new slang and gimmicks that we're playing with, and destroy David's Red Hero. No, it was
But
fun. And like,
that's not hard to do.
Whoa, whoa.
but no, like we had a really cool local scene at that time. We probably had like 10 to 20 players consistently showing
That's
up
awesome.
for the events that we'd be having. So I mean, for me, that was my introduction to like competitive gaming in any kind. So I mean, I was just blown away by
Wow.
it. I mean, I would show up to a local event just like shaking. I was so nervous. And I was
Did you play any like tabletop games before getting into Keyforge
Not
and
really.
Destiny? Really interesting.
No, that was kind of the introduction to it.
Nice. That's cool.
I
Yeah.
always love like strategy games, but that was the
Uh-huh.
first one that was like specifically around that.
Yeah, we started hosting like basically we called them Jedi Trials monthly tournaments at a local that was like really supportive of Destiny, and we were in Lexington, Kentucky, and Cincinnati players would come down, and we would consistently have like 20 to 30 guys and girls playing for Destiny. And I remember we hosted a solidarity tournament. It was that -1 plot where you could play 31 points of characters, but they all had to be the same color, and like you could only play like singleton, like one copy of
I
every card.
remember you telling me about this actually.
Yeah, and our buddy Landon like had like a custom like wooden engraved like playmat thing where we could like play and have like a little like dice pool, and just so we could record games and put them on YouTube on Jedi Trials. And I love that stuff. And we would have everyone would donate prizes of like their own stuff just to like give away. And goodness, those were some good memories.
All right. So now you want to dig into the gameplay and why it probably died?
No, Jay, but I do want to know your favorite deck from your Star Wars Destiny days.
Oh, that's easy. It's not even a question. I didn't even have to go look. Mace Wind Doggy Dog and the Padawan.
And
mean,
the
that was-
and the Shieldy D's.
Yep, Mace Wind Doggy Dog. That was by far. I mean,
Yeah, you
my
played
other
that deck a
option.
ton.
My other option would be Vader Raider because that was like an actually like really
Classic.
good deck, and I won store championship with it and stuff. And I mean, it was really good. But yeah, Mace Windu, and like people totally would underestimate when I would bring that deck out. And then I would like destroy them, and they'd be like, "What the heck just happened?" But it's only because I've played that deck so many times that like I knew how to try and like make it work, and like what my outs were or what my power moves were and all that kind of stuff. So, but it wasn't that good of a deck, but it was really fun to play.
Mike?
Well, a couple decks stand out for sure, but I'll stick with one. So I will shout out the one deck that I had a ton of fun with. I top 8'd, I think, a regional with it, which was Jar Jar deck. I don't even remember the characters in it, other than the fact that Jar Jar was in it, and I had top 8'd
Boss
and I thought it was
Nass.
hilarious. No, it was a mill deck, obviously.
Yeah.
If anybody knows
Mike
me.
was a dirty mill player.
Yes, I was. But my real favorite deck, which was not a mill deck, but it was a deck that I had a ton of fun playing and that people constantly underestimated, and that I feel like I don't know, made a little bit of a name for myself with, was the solo Sabine deck.
There it is.
Which was a 26 out of 30 point deck. You can play a maximum of 30 points. You only need 26 with this deck.
With one character.
With one character with, I don't know, 11 health or something like that. It might have been 12 health. But
Stupid.
Yeah, ridiculously broken. She played, it was herself, which was 20 points, and then a 4-point plot. And the plot was something along the lines of, I don't know, exhaust it and play a yellow event like for 3 less or something like that, 2 less. I don't remember exactly what it does. I'm terrible at remembering things in general, but all I know is that this combination of cards allows you to do some like really crazy things where you could just like roll in and just like destroy people off the table before they had a chance to react, or remove all their dice before they had a chance to do anything with their dice. Put, second chance on your character when it's about to die and give it another 6 health or whatever.
That just gave me PTSD. Oh, God.
No, second chance with ammo belt, dude.
Yeah, there it is.
That's it.
Super fun for me, not super fun for my opponents, but definitely caught people off guard. It was a lot of fun to play during that sort of like store champ season until I think stuff got errated or banned or something. I don't remember exactly how it went down.
Yeah, you definitely caused some erratas and bans at some point.
I other people were playing that deck.
You broke
I don't
the internet when you brought
it,
Solo Sabine and won a regional or something. Yeah,
I think it was the store championships, but it was a like decently sized one. But it was, I mean, that was one of the most fun events that I went to. But I think, I don't know, after that, I felt like I kind of like did what I wanted to do in Star Wars Destiny and like kind of stopped playing after that. But that particular deck I had a lot of fun with.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Calling in favors. I found it.
Calling in favors.
Yeah,
before you play an event that costs 3 or more, you may exhaust this plot to decrease it by 1 or by 2 instead if you have exactly 1 character.
There it is. And that's why we play one Sabine. So you get to play your two. Yeah, you get to play a 3-cost card every turn for 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it was busted. Yeah, Never Tell Me the Odds was a great one. You could ambush into Never Tell Me the Odds. Reversal. There was one that removed like all of your opponent's dice, I think. I don't remember what the card was called. I would check, but my mouse actually died, so I can't move. I can't control my computer at the moment.
Let's go.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yep.
David, I want to hear about your favorite deck and why it was some red hero deck. And please don't tell me that it was a deck that you top 8'd, because that cannot be your favorite deck. That can't be your favorite deck.
Well, everyone knows I couldn't top 8 with a red hero deck, unfortunately. But my actual favorite deck was a mono red hero, Leia Akbar, Awakenings deck. Princess Leia and Admiral Akbar. At the time, this was in Awakenings. This was the first set. Jango Fett, and Admiral Veers were like destroying the meta because it was like super aggro, lots of like ranged weapons. And I literally remember going up. I went up to a tournament in like Dayton, Ohio. It was actually an X-Wing tournament that I dropped from to play in the Destiny tournament.
It's a good move.
Yeah. And I played this Leia Akbar deck, and like 5 of the 8 people were playing Jango Veers. And there was a card called It's a Trap. It cost 1 with ambush, and you could copy the side of a dice on the other side and turn all of your red dice to it. And because of that ambush, you could resolve it all. So Jango Veers would roll out a bunch of ranged dice and threaten to kill you, and then you'd say, "It's a trap," or "It's a trap." And you'd copy all your dice and then kill one Jango Veers, and they'd be like, "Wait, what?" And you would laugh. And I had so much fun. I have vivid memories of winning this like 8-person Destiny tournament. It had no stakes on the line at all, but it was during Awakenings when only people were playing Vader Raider and Jango Veers, and which turned into my everlasting quest that you probably picked up on to make a mono red hero deck that would go the distance, and had some fun with Rex and Kess Dameron at the end, but Leia Akbar will always be my heart and soul. I did play Rey Ayla to top 8 world championships, and I did like that deck, but that was more of a functional, like, I know this is
The
good.
deck was soulless.
Yeah, it was like, I know this is good, so I'm going to play it, but that wasn't my heart. Like, this is what I want to play. I did win a 36-person store championship with Poe Maz 2 days after Spirit of Rebellion came out in Louisville, Kentucky, and I felt dirty, but I did win a 36-person store championship, and I have a Kylo Ren lightsaber from winning that I've given to my 5-year-old son, and he really enjoys that. So,
nice.
Yep, Jim. I don't think I have to ask you, but what was your favorite deck?
I was looking through like what did I used to play, and I was like, man, I would have hated me because it was the droids deck. So it was R2D2, C3PO, and Chopper. Which, like, the fact that they're going up against the like Jedi, like the elites essentially of the world. It's like these little droids hanging
R2D2 is the hero of Star Wars.
You're not wrong. But it was literally just death by 1,000 cuts was the idea of it. So you're just throwing everything plus the kitchen.
And then you get to like focus all your dice all the time, right? That was not the whole thing. You got to like turn a red die if you spot this, turn a blue die if you do whatever. There
were so many little triggers that was like impossible to keep up with unless like you actually like were running the deck that nobody knew how to like really go against you. And it was just stupid, honestly. There's all these upgrades and things that you could like pull and tutor. It's just silly. But then I was looking at what else I played, and I did play quite a bit of like Yoda Leia Mill as well.
Nice.
And I was like, dang, nice. I'm the worst player. Like, truly was like, oh, I'm just gonna make sure you don't have any fun. So for as much as I pick on David for beating me in Flesh and Blood with ice heroes, I did the same thing to him for a long time, so this is actually my fault.
I think we should take like 5 minutes to talk about just the gameplay. You guys played recently in a Destiny Smash event. Jay and I this week played some Destiny Smash. Like, I hadn't played in probably 5 years, 4 years. I don't know. Wait, how long had it been since you guys played? Before you played last week or 2 weeks ago?
I did. I know I played some Destiny Smash in 2020 during the pandemic on TTS.
Okay.
So I think 2020, I played against Chris of all people. We recorded nice. It was like the last Jedi Trials YouTube video was me playing Smash against Chris and some internet troll saying this is the worst Destiny content. Why do you think we need this? Like, someone who didn't know me and Chris at all because it'd been a while. Still makes me laugh.
So what like do you have thoughts on the gameplay that are different from what you thought about it when it was running in 2017, 2018, 2019? I guess 2017, 2018.
Different thoughts. I don't know that I have different thoughts. I still, the way that the game ended, I think the game became way too dependent on supports and random 1 cost, 2 cost, random ships and hired guns and not hired guns, but like, what was that? What was that 1 cost yellow support?
Backup muscle?
No, not backup muscle.
Oh, maybe the one that I played in our game. Oh no, it was red though. The one that I played.
No, it was a yellow 1 cost something. Gosh, it's been too long. It's been literally 3 years. But just stuff like that. I don't know. But it was literally like, so like, okay, so you're literally just bringing the cheapest generic Star Wars characters, and we're not playing Star Wars anymore. We're playing math.
Yeah. It's like, just bring the most amount of health you can bring so that you have time to set up your supports.
Yeah. That was one of my one loss in the Swiss rounds at the World Championships in 2018 was against like that kind of a deck, and it was just it just wasn't even like a fun loss. Like, it wasn't even close, because it's just like, okay, this is just I don't know. Like I want to be able to play my Luke Skywalkers and my Darth Vaders and my Yodas and stuff, like, and I don't want to think like, oh, I'm giving up something by not playing some generic something. And so I think by the end of the game's life, I think they did a great job for a long time. The 4th set Legacies, when 2018 Worlds was like the the epitome of like the perfection of that game. I think that was the best it ever got after 4 sets. Lucas Litzinger designed the game. Jeremy Zorn took over development. They were rocking and rolling. It was really good. But when it became too much about the supports, it lost a lot of its flavor for me. So when I started playing Destiny Smash format, which is something Dice Commando came up with, you should watch if you're listening audio, go on our YouTube format. Jay and Mike just played a game of this, but Dice Commando came around and created like a way to like board gameize the Star Wars Destiny. You grab a hero like Luke Skywalker or I don't know, like Leia or Chewbacca, and 15 card half decks, and you randomly smash it together with another half deck, and you just start playing Destiny. And to me, that recaptures some of like the love of Destiny, where it's like, oh, I've got the main characters on the board rolling dice and fighting each other, and I'm not trying to like avoid these random supports. I'm actually trying to like use my guys. And so the Smash format recaptures some of the Destiny magic for me personally. So that my opinion remains the same. It eventually the game became too dependent on supports and not the main characters, and Smash was the answer for it.
For sure. Yeah. I after not playing it for so long, like I feel like like the nostalgia was definitely real in sort of like my perception of what Star Wars Destiny was before I played it again. I still love it. I still think it's a really great game, but there's some things about it that I like sort of remembered that I didn't really love about the game, that I think maybe I didn't even admit that like I didn't really love about the game at the time. But for me, like I have a really hard time keeping track of like a bunch of static things that are happening on the board at any given time. It's one of the reasons why I'm like pretty bad at Keyforge and like don't really love Keyforge, is that like there's so many things to just like pay attention to and know. Like my brain just doesn't work that way. I can't like keep all these things in my brain at one time. And so with Destiny, there were like a lot of moments where it's like, okay, it's my action. I get to do any one of these like 10 different things that I could do. And I also have to keep in mind all of the dice that are already on the board that I could do something with, or all of my opponent's dice on the board that I need to keep in mind that have like secondary effects if I do this one thing. Different abilities on different cards that I have to read. So it's like I have to read all of the characters, I have to read all of the upgrades, I have to read all of the supports, and like and the battlefield, make sure I'm not missing a trigger somewhere. So I think there was like a lot more of that than I remembered there being. And maybe it was just the characters that we were playing. Maybe it was that it was like, bringing stuff in from later sets, because I don't really remember that quite as much from like Awakenings and like that sort of period in time of the game. And it may have been that way, but maybe I just don't remember it that way. So I don't know. I was struck by that a little bit, that it was like it felt more complex than I remember it being. Did you feel that way, Jay? I don't know. Yeah, because I feel like you probably haven't played in a while either.
Yeah, I hadn't played in a very long time. I mean, I played like one game a couple years ago when I tried to get my friend into it and he didn't like it. Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from, and it's definitely it's an interesting arc too, because like it starts off really simple with only a few dice, and then as you go through the rounds, it builds up pretty intensely, because they're also not being removed whenever you play them. So it's like you play it like compared to another game when you play a permanent that can get defeated or challenged or whatever, like you're playing upgrades, which adds more to the board, and they're not getting removed until one of your characters gets defeated. So it's like just build up, and there's a lot of stuff on the board. So I can definitely see where you're coming from. The one thing that struck me the most was like I forgot how. So like the coolest part of the game for me is the back and forth, and like and kind of trying to manipulate your opponent into doing something by taking an action that they have to retaliate to or react to. And so much of that is gone. I mean, as soon as the second set came out, it kind of was that way. But like even the game we played, there were so many things that were like, when you activate this guy, you can activate this too, and you can also do this action. You also get to reroll, and you also get to do this, and then I also get to trigger my effect that lets me remove one of your dice, and it all happens at one time. It's just, it became more of an action efficiency game than it did about like the back and forth.
The strategy of the back and forth, the tactical sort of decision making,
like Solo Sabine.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't mind some forms of action efficiency. So like playing an upgrade and it having ambush feels like a really good reason that you would have some form of action efficiency. And then there's some decks that don't even care about it. There's decks that are 4 characters and all they do is play up supports, and they have like 10 supports they have to activate. So there's no way they're ever going to be able to like outpace you. So they don't care. But most games are like aggro v aggro, where it's like a couple characters or whatever, and that in those cases it felt really weird with how much action cheating there was.
Yeah, for sure. There aren't that many games that integrate the sort of back and forth actions. I know Destiny did it. Ashes is kind of another example, but
Runeterra
a little bit. Yep, absolutely. I like that mechanic though. Like I think it's an interesting sort of dynamic between, like, there's always interesting moments in like, okay, I have to sort of think a few steps ahead, because if I do this and then my opponent's going to do this and then I have to like do this, and like I'm not great at that kind of thinking, but I think it is very like strategic, and like a player that is good at that kind of thing can really take advantage of it to make a big difference. You know, like all other things being equal, if you can manipulate that part of the game to your advantage, like you're in a good spot. I think it's fun, and it's also like it's very engaging. You don't get as bored on your opponent's turn if they're just doing one thing. So I like that as well.
Yeah. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, but like some of the like I play the back and forth, like either in the Polygon article or the press release or something, they hinted at like, oh, this is like something we really want to lean into.
That would be cool.
I'm like rereading. I know I read it, but I'm rereading the press release right now. But yeah, like some of that I do this, so you do this. Like that was so beautiful about Destiny, and I loved that too. Because you couldn't just tune out for like an entire turn, and
that's why supports, like, I feel like increasing the amount of supports in the game, like having that as a win condition, felt really weird because it was almost counter to that back and forth trying to like claim the battlefield and trying to like race your opponent or interact in some way. Felt the support meta felt really weird because it didn't care that much about that. And then also it's playing permanence in a game where there wasn't permanence when the game was designed, not like this many.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that was just like a terrible direction to take the game.
All the supports needed health that you could attack.
Yeah, like Flesh and Blood does. Like they have permanence in their game now, but it's like you can take them out, and I mean they do it in a way that it works. I think, but so you can't really compare the two, but. Yeah, that felt really weird.
Okay.
I also didn't like the idea of Mill being in the game, but that's just me.
I understand everybody hates it.
I
like milling people. That's just because I'm a terrible person.
You are. You really are. I did find the quote in the Polygon article. It says Cartwright described the game as fast moving with lots of back and forth between players in a given round. Quote unquote, it means you're not waiting for me to think about all the different things I have to do, play out my whole turn, maybe ruin the experience for you in a short burst of time. It really is about this constant engagement of I do a thing, you do a thing that keeps everyone simultaneously focused on what's going on.
Yeah, that's great. That's exciting.
I love that. That I'm like, yes, keep that like magic, because I think that's what makes a game beautiful.
Yeah, there's definitely something special in that system. I think it's like very satisfying to try and wrap your head around.
Yep, and it takes out that we've talked about this on this podcast, that instant like Flesh and Blood, like oh, there's these like hidden windows where I can do something on your turn, and it's like some of the like grief people have had about Lorcana has been like, oh, I can't do something on your turn, this game is terrible. It's like it takes some of that out of it, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna do something, and then you can do something, and then I can do something, and then we like share this turn collectively, and I love that concept, so I'm interested to see what they do.
Yeah, it's a very you go ahead.
I said, do you remember the Ewok deck that came out right as we were like leaving Destiny.
Yep.
The
was,
diceless
like-
characters.
There were no dice. It was just
I
like,
remember
what is
that.
this game
Yeah,
anymore? So
yeah.
just you would exhaust them and just deal a free damage every time. It was
Diceless
just like-
characters had to be because they didn't want to print dice anymore.
100%.
Even though they did print dice, right? Like even in those packs with non-dice characters.
Yeah, it was just
but
like that wouldn't have been your rare. It was like a common card in it. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I remember when that came out, I was just like, what are we even playing anymore?
Yeah, yeah.
It was like, that's what I've
it
been
feels like
telling you
that
this whole
breaks a
time.
cardinal rule of the game. It's everything goes back to our conversation about identity, and I feel like that totally breaks it.
Mhm.
That's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we managed to go all the way from Star Wars Unlimited to Star Wars Destiny back to Star Wars Unlimited. So
Yep. Let's tie this thing up with a bow. Final thoughts, gentlemen. Anything you left unsaid that you need to say?
very excited about Star Wars. Let's go.
There's so much we could say about Star Wars Destiny, but
We'll just get Chris on for like a
another
part
one.
2 episode and let him just monologue for an hour.
yeah, that works. He'll yell about not being able to use laser swords.
Just somebody get the bleep button ready.
I will say that at the time I was a bit like more okay with them making characters that aren't sort of main characters in the Star Wars franchise like good, and the fact that like some of the main characters in the Star Wars franchise weren't very good. But now thinking back on it, I think that was a huge mistake. I think the fact that like set 1 Luke was pretty bad, and like, you know, random Unkar Plutt was like top S tier card. I think that was absolutely a mistake. I'm like, I've done a 180 on that opinion.
Yeah, especially with a game that has an IP. It's like, why would you do
why
that?
use
It's
the
like,
IP if you're not gonna make the iconic characters playable?
Yeah, 100%. And this game had the most power creep in any game I've ever played. I mean, from set 1 to set 2, we talked about it, I think, in our Discord. It's like set 1 had Vader and Luke at like 20 and 21 cost. And then the next set had FN 2199 at 13 cost for 2 dice.
A guy who had like 5 seconds of screen time.
And he was just absolutely broken.
Yeah.
It was the power creep was insane between
you had
Spirit
FN,
Rebellion.
Vibro Knife, Force Speed,
Yeah.
like all in the same set.
Force Speed sends me.
All in the same set. But yeah.
Good. All right. Any other final thoughts, people?
No, I think we should let people go back to their day.
There we go. If you're still tuning in with us, you're some of the probably OG Star Wars Destiny fans. So from all of us at Jedi Trials and Double Blanks, thanks for tuning in. And what was my ending tagline?
Probably may the Force be with you.
I think it was may the dice be with you.
That's what it was.
Does it? May the dice be with you.
That sounds about right.
That's right.
It sounds like something cheesy you would say.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And may the dice be
ya.
with you.
Bye.
Roll 3s.